just things that are
Wait a minute.
easy to remember. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, hang on just a second. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the How to Choose Happiness and Freedom Show. I am your host, Lauren Foster, happiness coach and founder of Be Happy First. And I am really happy today. If you've been following along with the saga of my poor sick dog, he made remarkable strides yesterday and is well enough to come home this afternoon. So as soon as we're through here today, I'm going to go get him. And I am just so happy. And so this demonstrates that the greater the depth of the challenge and the pain when you get on the other side of it, the greater your happiness is from that. So this is another reason to, not try to reject things that are painful or that are distressing, but to find a healthy way to weave those into the fabric of your life. So we're talking this month about death and fear and resentment. This is our dark month, where we are kind of highlighting the part that these things play in our lives and our beliefs about death and our the way that we allow fear to serve us or sabotage us, and resentment. Are we able to let go of old hurts and old resentments and move forward in a way that's healthy and sound for us? So I am so happy today to have a guest for the first time. So I'm learning and growing. Carolyn Maul is with me here today, and she is a life coach and holistic nutritionist, and she's going to talk about the biology of stress and fear, including the cortisol insulin connection and what role your liver plays in stress-related weight gain, which I'm so excited to hear about that, and the 4 A's for dealing with stress. Now, in addition to her master's degree in holistic nutrition and dozens of certifications, her main area of expertise lies in inspiring others to shift their mindset, to understand the power of positive thinking and healthy living. And that's just another way of saying be happy first. So she is a perfect guest for us. So welcome, Carolyn. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, my pleasure, Lauren. Thank you for having me.
Yay! So, anything do you want to say about the to add to what your introduction before we delve into our awesome topic today?
I know, like, where should we start? So yeah, basically, I got my master's degree in holistic nutrition way back in 2006. So I've been doing this for a long time, and at that same time, I got a personal training certification. I became a yoga instructor. I started my own businesses doing in-home personal training and nutrition coaching. And so I've been at it for a long time. And basically today I just wanted to share some of the more pertinent nuggets of information that I feel like I am constantly teaching people. You know what I mean? Like, I run nutrition seminars up at the Ojai Valley Inn here in California, and these are things that just come up so often. And, I love that you're talking about stress and fear this month because, obviously it's so relevant. I don't know whether you planned that.
Not in the least. It was just what came up in the rotation.
Pandemic happened for you. It's really perfect.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like it's a really prevalent topic, and things, even in the pre-corona life, we're all dealing with stress, and we're all dealing with things on a daily basis. And I think that it's really empowering to know what is actually happening in our bodies, because sometimes we just think we're crazy,
Right.
but we're really not. So, to segue off of that, what I often tell people is like I said, we all have stress. We all experience stress, whether it's physical stress or emotional stress, stress at work, whatever. And, stress leads to all sorts of health-related problems, as you know. Things like heart disease, obesity, asthma, diabetes, headaches, depression, like GI problems. All of these things are exacerbated by, and sometimes even caused by, stress. So today I wanted to talk, and this is like what I told you yesterday in our conversation, like it's a perfect piggyback to what you were saying on your show on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So for those of your audience that missed you on Tuesday, you want to just talk really briefly about the amygdala and like that stress response in your brain?
Well, yeah, that I'm not as qualified as you are to get into the real specifics of the physiology, but basically your brain is always releasing these neurotransmitters, dopamine, let's see, endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, which are your emotion drugs. And these are the things that are going on in your mind. And when you're in fear and stress and anger and pain, your brain tries to get you to do things to release the pain relieving aspects of endorphins and of dopamine. And when you hug someone or do something kind for someone, you get a hit of oxytocin. This is why our human interaction is so important, that when you do a random act of kindness, you get a hit of oxytocin. The person you do it for gets a hit of oxytocin, and everybody that witnesses it gets a hit of oxytocin. So this is our community feel-good drug that our brains create automatically. So yeah,
exactly. It's the love hormone.
The love hormone. That's right.
And so I wanted to talk a little bit today about the not love hormones, right? So like when we are, when we're facing a stressful situation, so there again, like to piggyback on what you were saying, our brain basically cues our endocrine system to release norepinephrine, adrenaline, and cortisol. Mm-hmm. Okay, so those are the three stress hormones where, like, say you're sitting, on a really stressful phone call or something along these lines, and you're on a conference call or something, and you're experiencing stress, and you're feeling like your to-do list just got 20 times longer, and you don't know what to do, you don't feel heard, like whatever, you're experiencing stress. Mm-hmm. So your brain basically says, oh my gosh, fight or flight, here we go with the dopamine, the norepinephrine, adrenaline, and cortisol. So I specifically wanted to talk about cortisol today. But those hormones are the things that, like, make your heart rate increase, your pupils dilate. It makes blood shunt away from your organs into your extremities because your body is experiencing a fight or flight response. Right. And that's just biologically like how we're wired.
For survival.
Exactly. But you're still sitting there in front of the TV or the, computer screen or phone or whatever. So what happens when cortisol is released into our bloodstream is it actually serves to release basically stored glycogen, which is like stored sugar. It's stored energy in our muscles, right? Mm-hmm. So in order for us to have that fight or flight response, to run, to flee, to fight, our body has already the mechanisms in place to give us energy to do that. We don't have to have a meal first.
Right. Right.
So cortisol releases stored glucose as in the form of glycogen into your bloodstream. Mm-hmm. And that actually elevates your blood sugar level. Mm-hmm. And so now you've got energy, like you're ready to go, but you're still sitting there in front of the computer screen, right? But your brain, which always strives for homeostasis, experiences that rise in blood sugar levels. And it's like, whoa, hey, hold up, pancreas, we need some insulin. Mm-hmm. And so insulin then is released from your pancreas in response to that cortisol release to go mop up that blood sugar so that you come back to normal homeostasis, right? And so the interesting thing about our bodies is that our bodies, like when we have a meal or like when you eat ice cream or you eat any kind of carbohydrate, any kind of sugar, what happens is our cells can't actually absorb and utilize those molecules unless insulin is present. It's like they're trying to get into the party, but insulin has the party favor. Like right. Insulin has the invite. So to actually enter into the receptor sites on cells, glucose needs insulin. Okay. So what happens now is that you've just released stored energy. Insulin comes down to, help usher it back into your cells. But all the while, you're still sitting still. Like you're not using this energy. So your blood sugar just went up. Insulin's released. Now your blood sugar bottoms out. And this is when people start to look around for the candy jar. Right?
Right.
Why am I craving carbs? Why am I craving a soda? Why am I craving all these things? And that's what I said earlier, you're not crazy. Your body actually just went through a big biological shift, even though you're still sitting there in front of the computer screen, right? So then people typically are, want a snack. You're hungry, you're bored, you're eating for comfort, all of these things. And more insulin gets released. Blood sugar goes up again. Blood sugar. So here's the cycle, right? Yeah. And the thing is that, and we know this, if you're diabetic or if you're pre-diabetic, you understand that what's happening is after a while, your pancreas stops releasing insulin. It stops producing enough insulin to be able to keep that homeostasis in place. And so when your pancreas is always working and it's always releasing insulin, it's hard on your body, right? Your body is always having to work at this. And eventually, there's receptor sites on your cells that I was talking about earlier. They basically say, no, we're done with this.
That's right.
No, there's no more room here. The dance floor is full, right? And so then you have elevated blood sugar all of the time, which there again leads to diabetes and all of the symptoms that go along with that. So when you're also weight gain, so the whole part of what I was saying about your liver, when you continually have this cortisol, insulin, or you're eating, there's all of this sugar basically circulating in your bloodstream. Eventually, it has to go somewhere. If it's not going to go into your cells, if your cells are full, if you've got plenty of stored energy,
or they think
it has to go somewhere,
right?
Right? And so it goes to your liver, and there's a process called lipogenesis, which essentially is a fancy name for making fat.
Making fat, right?
And so that your liver turns those extra sugar molecules into triglycerides, and that is stored as fat, usually around your midsection. And so that's why, like, when you go to the doctor and you have biometric screenings done, they'll take a waist circumference measurement to see where you're storing fat, like the whole apple fat versus pear fat, on your body.
Mm-hmm.
So because we know that fat stored around, this visceral fat stored around organs, there again, that leads to all kinds of health-related problems.
Right.
So where did we start with all this? That's the stress response.
Right, the stress response. And so, but we're thinking beings, so we have the ability to manage our perspective about stress. So talk about that. So it's okay, body, we're handling this. How are we handling it?
Exactly. So there's a fun little 4A rule that is, so basically, whatever kind of stress you're experiencing, there's three main kinds of stress, right? There's acute stress, which means like short term.
Right.
You've got a project due, you get it done. It was a short period of time. There's episodic acute stress, and this is like best personified in the people who are like the drama queen people. Like there are people, they're always running late. They can't find their keys. There's papers flying everywhere. There's always drama in their lives. And it's just like this continual making of stress for yourself.
Right.
And then there's chronic stress. And chronic stress is a lot like, living with a loved one who is ill, dealing with something day after day after day that you can't avoid.
Fear of not having enough money, fear of not having enough love, fear of being left, fear of being all of this. Yeah. So 4 A's to manage stress, right? So the first one is obviously to avoid the stressor if you possibly can. And so, in this easy ways to avoid stress is basically like, if you're stressed out about your commute, your drive, like you can figure out another way to go. Taking control of your surroundings, like figure out what you can control and work to do that. You know what I mean? That's an inside game. Avoid people who bother you. Do you know what I mean? Like, right. And that may mean setting boundaries with people. That may mean terminating friendships. That may mean doing a lot of things, but avoiding a stressful situation is in your control a lot of the time. Learning how to say no. Right. Boundaries. No is your friend. You know what I mean? If you've got this laundry list of things, you can avoid that stressful feeling by really being able to manage your day-to-day better. Mm-hmm. So, all right, let's say you can't avoid the stress. Right. Number 2 is to alter your response to the stress. So, this involves things like respectfully asking other people to change their behavior, to being able to address a situation and alter the way it's going to go down. If things continually happen on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis, and you're not doing anything to communicate your needs about it, perhaps, or maybe it's just managing your time better, those things are in your control. A lot of the altering how you perceive stress is altering your relationship with the other thing or the other person. Right. Let me just interject here. We teach that the way you perceive stress, if you say this stressful situation at my work is going to kill me, then that's the effect it's going to have. But if you say, hey, this stressful situation at work is a chance for me to learn and grow and face a challenge, and I'm going to feel amazing once I'm on the other side of that challenge, is another way of altering how you perceive stress. Exactly. Self-talk. Big part of that. Yeah. So the number 3 on the list is to actually find a way to adapt. So if there is a stressor that you cannot avoid and it's impossible to alter, then you have to somehow help in a healthy way adapt to that experience. So this may be like slightly adjusting your standards. And what I mean by that is like, maybe you don't have to have a home cooked meal on the table, like every single night for your family. Like maybe every once in a while, a box of mac and cheese is going to be okay. Like
Maybe your floors don't have to be perfect. Maybe you don't have to be perfect.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like thinking about perfection and then adjusting your standards accordingly.
Yeah.
And like you were saying just prior to this, it's kind of like learning how to reframe an issue. Let's look at this. How can I look at this in a way that is beneficial to me and not...
This is Romeo. He shows up every once in a while.
These are good. You know, this is also like learning how to look at the big picture. That's another part of altering or adapting to a stressor, is basically altering our perception of a situation by looking at the big picture. Like, is this going to matter in 5 years?
Right.
Is this going to matter next week?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, let's take a stop, like in that practice of thought stopping, like instead of letting all of our thoughts just run over us and just go wild, just stop for a second and think to yourself, like, okay, what is really going on right now?
Right. And if you can stand far enough back from anything, you can see that it's, it's a blip in time. It's,
I just actually posted a little quote from Byron Katie on my Facebook page yesterday about everything that you have feared, all of the stress that you've ever experienced is in the past. It no longer exists in this moment. Like, this moment is a gift. Like, there is grace in this moment.
Yep. I saw that. That was a great post. Right.
And then so number 4. So we've tried to avoid the stressful situation. We've tried to alter the stressful situation. We've tried to adapt to the stressful situation as best we can. But number 4 on the list is to accept the situation. Like, sometimes acceptance has to occur. And I think that you and I are parallel in this thought process, in that in my mind, acceptance is intricately linked to forgiveness. And a lot of that starts with ourselves.
Right.
And so forgiving ourselves for getting into this situation in the first place, forgiving ourselves for perhaps bad behavior or causing extra stress for ourselves or others. Like, a lot of times this is the part where we have to have a conversation with someone too. And, either forgive them, ask for forgiveness, allowing things to be as they are.
Right. And
finding beauty in them, and practicing positive self-talk as opposed to negative self-talk. And for heaven's sakes, learning from our mistakes.
Right. Right. So we've done all of these, and that now it's time to let it go. I've tried all of the other 4A's, and now I've done everything within my power. Now it's time to practice letting it go and start getting good at letting it go. And
and it's accepting what is, accepting what is, and not judging it, and not judging ourselves, and showing up every day being the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be.
Right.
In this moment, right? And it always goes back to in this moment.
Right.
In this moment.
Right.
By breath. And this is, it's a good time for people to adapt a mantra, a positive mantra, positive affirmations that you just repeat in your mind and come back to the breath, and, the practice of meditation. Like, all of these things help us to manage our stress, which does our physical body, a lot of good.
And then we're strong and we're resilient, and we don't have to be as fearful of random germs and things out in the world, so being as strong as we can. Sorry.
Just throw that in there.
Yeah.
So, practicing gratitude is another obvious way to help mitigate our stress levels, especially when we feel angry, or when we feel afraid, or when we are feeling anything negative. You can't feel grateful and negative at the same time, right? And so if you want to switch up that feeling, you have to refocus your thoughts onto something that you are grateful for, that does make you feel good. And, sometimes that's easier said than done, for sure. And I don't know about you if you have a practice of journaling, but that
Yes.
helps me a lot to actually write.
Yeah, and we have, and that's one of those things that the more you do it, the better you get at it. Just like anything else, the more you practice, and yes, we do. We have a whole journaling process for starting out your days on purpose, choosing your perspective, gathering some anchoring thoughts that make you feel good that you can always slip back to. You know, when I'm in this meeting and I'm stressed out and I'm mad at you because you're a terrible boss, but I'm going to think about my magic orchid for today instead. And I'm going to give myself that little hit of happiness that mitigates the stress that I'm in that moment and helps me to feel better and helps me to feel like I'm in charge of my perspective. And it's all about just like when you're meditating and your mind wanders, then you bring your attention back. It's just whenever you find yourself getting in this clenched up, constricted, restricted place, you go back to the place of relaxing and allowing. So.
Yeah. And that, that involves like so many, again, like body processes, like your heart rate is going to come down. Like there's so many cool biological benefits to things like meditation, but, also exercise, like I can't say enough that our bodies are meant to move. We are humans and we're meant to move. We're meant to exercise every day. And so, to help mitigate stress as well, it's super important to have some kind of movement routine. It doesn't have to be going to the gym. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but you have to be able to move in a way that feels good to your body. And like what you were saying, for endorphins to be released, like kind of counteract the negative, the hormone releases, we have to have a way to
counteract that. Awesome. Okay, well, so this is longer than we normally go, but this is such great stuff that I'm absolutely totally off with it. So to recap, the 4 A's for managing stress, managing your relationship with stress are to avoid, alter, adapt, and accept. And all of these are completely in alignment with the Be Happy First philosophy of choosing your perspective and owning your power. No matter what is going on outside of you, nobody can make you sad or fearful or angry against your will. So you allow yourself to respond in the ways that you do. So, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, go check out Carolyn at carolynmaul.com. Tammy, lovely, beautiful Tammy, has put the links in the comments so that you can get directly to her and find out more about what's going on with her and what the things that she's doing in the world, which are beautiful, amazing things. And of course, go and get on our email list by downloading the journal playbook, which is what we were just talking about. This is the how to have anything you want. And the first step, you know what? I didn't want to not say this either. One of the key elements of Carolyn's teaching is to be very clear on your vision. Because if you don't know what you want, how in the world are you going to get it? And that's exactly in line with the philosophy that we have here at Be Happy First. We're supposed to be happy and we're supposed to be free. And figuring out how to mold our lives into that mindset is, it's our job here. And it's good and it's fun. We like it.
I love it. Thank you so much. And I appreciate all of the extra work that you did to actually allow me to be here on your show today.
It was. It's like, it's time to learn this, Lauren, because Carolyn is going to be here. Keeping us on our toes, right? Okay, well, so we will say goodbye and join us back here on Tuesday. So we've done death, we've done fear, we've done forgiveness. Next week, we're going to kind of wrap all of that up and kind of talk about how those things are intertwined and just kind of interlaced throughout each of our days and how we can best weave those into the fabric of our lives so that we have rich and meaningful and purposeful and passionate lives. So I will see you on Tuesday at 11:30 Eastern. In the meantime, remember that happiness is a choice. You can always choose to be happy first. Say goodbye. Bye, Carolyn.